Because of your training, do you find yourself being in a crowded space, something like a movie theater or a grocery store, where you're thinking about the exits or things like that, where you're like, if someone pulls out a weapon in the front row of Batman, like the new Batman, this is exactly what I'm going to do.
Dude, I walk into a room and I try and remember faces. I keep an eye on people's eyes, where they're looking at and where their hands are. And I do take notice of exits. And I'm pretty confident I'm hard to kill. So
I'm going to keep my hands up here for the rest of the podcast.
It's all good, dude. You're not a threat. Don't worry.
So you had to learn Krav Maga in the Israeli forces. Can you explain what Krav Maga is for people who aren't familiar with it? And I include myself in that characterization.
So at the basic level, it's classified as a martial arts like Kung Fu and Taekwondo and shit. It's specifically an Israeli martial art, and if you watch it in action, it kind of looks like dirty street fighting. And that's exactly what it is. You're taught to go for some dude's nutsack. You're taught to go for their throat. You're taught to poke out their eyes. Because the object of any war, even a war between you and one other person with your hands, is to win as fast as possible, because only then you're out of danger. If I go and I box some dude, I'm just wasting energy on hurting him. Like, no, if you attack me, I'm going to assume you want to kill me. I'm going to kill you first. So
is that the assumption in Krav Maga, that it's life and death always?
Yes. And that is because just, going back to Israel, living in Israel is life or death. Israel can't afford to lose a single war. It does mean it's annihilation. So, we're the reigning champ for a reason. But going back to the Krav Maga, it's also pretty cool because it's like you can have, a 5'1" chick being able to take out and kill a guy that's like 6'5", 6'6".
Yeah.
And it's really helpful. It's not that hard to learn. It's literally taught to us in massive classrooms. And my instructor for the longest time was like a 19-year-old chick that was like half my size and weight, dude. She put me on my ass more times than I can count.
Really?
It was,
So what would she do to someone like you? And if you're listening to this, if you're not watching the video, what would you say your height and weight is?
So I'm 6'4", and right now like 325.
Okay, so you're 6'4", 325, and this chick was like 5'1", you said, like 130, something like that?
At the time, I was like in my 230s. I was a lot, thinner back then, but I was still bigger than her.
Still like, over a foot on her.
Exactly. So her biggest thing was going for my legs, because the phrase, the bigger you are, the harder you fall. So once you get your opponent on the ground, he is no longer focused on fighting you. He's focused on getting back up. And once he's on the ground, he's then vulnerable for a lethal strike. So at that point is, when you break a neck, or when you stab a throat, or when you drive a knife into a spine, you get them on the floor. If you're somewhat equally matched, you're going to want to focus on deflection. You're going to want to watch their hands and their eyes, just like I said earlier, because that's going to tell you their next move. You're going to wait for their next move. You're going to deflect it, move it out of its way, and have it lose its energy, and then you're going to strike. And, you're not going to punch it back. You're going to rip his throat out. You're going to kill him. So Krav Maga is very quick, and that's really the whole point of it.
It sounds so intense and so foreign to me. The only self-defense or martial art that I have experience in is Muay Thai. I've been doing Muay Thai for almost 2 years now, a couple times a week. And obviously it's considered a competitive sport if you choose to compete. So there are rules. You're not allowed to rip someone's throat out. If I could, I doubt that I'd be able to, or like kick someone in the nuts. So you're like all these, there's still a lot of wiggle room that you can have within the rules of Muay Thai, but it sounds like Krav Maga is basically like what you said, street fighting, a lot of the things that are barred from traditional martial arts, and then doing them quickly and violently.
That's exactly what it accurate? Is. Yeah. Krav Maga pretty much is a conglomerate of every effective move from every martial art in history, just mixed in its own pattern of effective ways to use them.
And it's all about violence and efficiency. Like no extra movement. Like how can I kill this dude or
any
girl?
extra movement is a waste of energy. Any waste of energy is that clock of life ticking down.
Yeah.
So